Welcome, everyone. My name is Jacob. Thank you for joining me. This is Hunt Detail. We are in the midst of a series on preparing for a Western elk hunt. And if you drew a tag recently, or if you anticipate drawing one, or even if you're just going to go OTC, this is really the time to buckle down and get ready from certainly from a physicality standpoint. If you're not training, you need to be. If you're not tuning your bow and getting that tight and tightening your gear. That's important. And last week, we talked a little bit about e-scouting and planning and how that's, of course, connected to mindset and your overall hunt objective. And in today's episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into e-scouting. And I like most things, though, even if it's like boots on the ground scouting, if you don't commit to doing it within your specific area, it isn't going to be real helpful. And so, before we get to that, though, I want to point out what's going on in Washington State. They are going to be reintroducing grizzly bears to that state. And of course, if you don't think that that has an impact on hunting in that poor state, it certainly will. And I think there's a lot of intentionality around these reintroduction of apex predators like wolves and grizzlies, and the protections of grizzlies are trying to keep grizzlies on the endangered species list, which they successfully have done, even though it's pretty clear that they have rebounded beyond that point. And so, if you are excited about elk hunting and you care about doing these sorts of things, and we talked about Colorado and what's going on there, I would encourage you to get involved. Sportsman's Alliance, HAL are both organizations that I have no affiliation with, other than the fact that I'm a member of Sportsman's Alliance. But they don't sponsor me. They don't tell me to say any of these things. I'm just saying that, unfortunately, in today's day and age, if you want to protect something like the outdoors and hunting, elk hunting, whatever, whatever it is, trapping, you really have to get involved. You can't sit on the sidelines anymore. You have to be in the arena, and you have to have a voice, and you have to share that voice. And so I just want to encourage you all to do that if you haven't, to at least follow Sportsman's Alliance, at least follow HAL, and ultimately become members of those organizations, or help support the Coloradans for responsible wildlife management. And they're trying to fight uh, some issues there where they're trying to ban lion hunting, among other things. And so it's a slippery slope. We have to fight back. You have to punch back when you have a bullying you. You got to punch back. You got to fight. So enough about that. With regards to Google Earth, I want to and e-scouting. I want to start with Google Earth, and I talked a little bit about last week. It really is at the tip of the spear when it comes to e-scouting, because of some of the things that you can do. And certainly you can predate images. You can go to different time frames. You can look at September of from 2 years ago, or you can look at January of 2 years ago and get a sense of what the terrain looks like at different times of the year. You could also see vehicles and truck trailheads, and see how crowded they are in September or what have you. Get a sense of what that public pressure is going to be like if you're going to a particular area. And I'm going to give you a couple of downloads that you can pull into your Google Earth platform. Now, Google Earth has to be downloaded to your desktop. But if you go to EarthPoint, you can download USGS topographic maps. And you can, on Google Earth, once it's downloaded and plugged into your Google Earth platform, you can use a bar to increase or decrease the visual of that topographic map. And you can increase, so you can sort of have a hybrid view where you see the terrain and the topographic layer. And I really like the USGS topographic maps because there's a lot of history there. They will show you roads, logging roads, other water, saying things that are not as uh, obvious, I guess, maybe on other maps. It's not the only topographic map that I use, but it is the only one that I pull into Google Earth, and it helps me sort of get a sense of obviously elevation bands and how steep terrain is, but also other hidden gems within a particular area. And we talked about how you sort of last week, how you sort of narrow that down. And so if you go to the National Oceanic, Atmospheric, and Administration, you can actually download uh, snow layers if you're concerned about snow. It gives you a sense in real time what's going on in certain mountainous areas. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some other apps and tools that you can use to examine terrain and examine other areas. And then NCWeb is a site where you can examine historical fires, and I believe you can pull that data into the Google Earth platform too. If you go to NCWeb, just Google NCWeb, it'll come up and it shows Western fires and that sort of thing. And so those are some tools and layers that I like with when it comes to e-scouting with Google Earth, and it helps me sort of get a sense of what might be going on in a particular area, and it might help me zero in on some hidden gems. Now, with OnX and GoHunt, which are the two primary hunt map apps that I use, I like to use their fire layers. Now, on GoHunt, you can actually change the dates of those fire layers. And so if you want, uh, I think it goes back 15 plus years, maybe even more, in terms of the fire layer. So you can actually date those fires, and that's something that you can't do on OnX. When you're on OnX, you can click on a fire and it'll show you the dates, but with the GoHunt platform, you can actually uh, change, put the dates in for those fires. So you can, so maybe you want a burn that is 3 to 5 years old, or you want to avoid. I mean, personally, I want to avoid burns once they get to about 7 years, because at that point, that area becomes a little dangerous in terms of trees falling if the wind picks up, that sort of thing. So so I would encourage you to play around with some of the layers that are available to you on these different platforms. The terrain analysis tool is something that's really unique to GoHunt. I mentioned that last week. There's also timber cuts. Of course, there's motor vehicle roads and trails and recreational trails on both of these platforms that can really help you get a sense of how you're going to get there and how you're going to avoid other people. The When it comes to the outside of these app platforms, I don't want to be completely reliant on electronic scouting. I want to download. I want to. You can download motor vehicle use maps from each state. So if you pick, pick any state that you're interested in or that you're going hunting, and you can download those motor vehicle use maps. So what I do is I put those on a hard drive and I take those to a print shop like a FedEx Kinko's or something like that, and I have them print them out rather large. I couldn't even tell you. It's as I couldn't even tell, like maybe 20 by 30. I don't know, something like that. And I print those out. So at this point, I've really zeroed down into an area that I want to hunt, uh, a particular region. And so I want those motor vehicle use maps because it will list on there the dates that those particular roads are open or closed and what they're open and closed to. So maybe they're open to just e-bikes, or I don't know, or four wheelers, or no, no, or cars, or no, whatever. It'll outline that for you, and that'll give you a sense again of what you're going into before you get there. It also helps you understand how to navigate an area. I also purchased uh, the national forests, or whatever, the maps for that particular area. So if you're going to, uh, piece of public land, surely there will be a map. And again, you can use, there's going to be information on that map that you might not find anywhere else in terms of old logging road. Again, these paper maps are dated. So you may find water, other things that have been noted on other maps that haven't been captured by newer maps. And so it's always nice to have something in addition. Maybe you lose your phone, maybe you, whatever, phone dies, to have something as a backup, because you don't want to be completely lost out there. So those are some things that I would recommend as you continue to zero in on where you're going. There are some other map platforms that I think could be helpful, and one of them is Gaia GPS. Now, in my evaluation of hunt map app platforms, I looked at the Onexes and the Go Hunts and the HuntWise, but I also looked at Gaia because I wanted to see if Gaia was a legitimate app for someone that hunts in the East and in the West, or hunts multiple states, because they do have some hunt icons. They do have the units that you can, a unit layer, for example. You pick a state and it has those units for elk or deer or bear or whatever. And it really isn't a full-blown hunt map app, and I rated it as such on the spreadsheet. And again, go to the Hunt Detail Instagram page and you can pull down that spreadsheet, and I'd love it if you gave it a follow. But Gaia does have 254 layers. It does have a snow forecast, a precipitation forecast layer, a roadless layer. It does have shading built into it, so you can look for a certain slope of a particular ridge or mountain or hillside, and that's very similar to CalTopo, which is a website, a web-based app. I think you might be able to download it now, but CalTopo is another platform that you could use. But so those are two options. Again, I think as you drill down, as you're looking, you want to go from 30,000 foot view to 15 to 10 to 5. And so then these other tools, I think, start to come into play, like a CalTopo, like a Gaia GPS, like a hillmap.com. Hillmap is very interesting in the fact that it allows you to look at a topographic layer and a terrain side by side. And then, again, I think you're looking for nuance. You're looking for terrain features, or something that to grab you and say, okay, because again, you're competing against 1,000 other guys, and they're all using Onyx and they're all using Google Earth. So you have to play the game a little differently, and you have to drill down a little further, because otherwise you're going to be doing the same thing that 1,000 other guys are doing. So I'm going to pivot off of those apps and talk about some non-hunting apps that might be helpful. So again, one of the things that is great about, for folks that live out west, is they have mountains to hike and bike and ski. And so that is human pressure, that is traffic that impacts deer and elk and other game. And so wouldn't it be nice to know where these people are, or where they're likely going to be ahead of time, so that you don't find yourself being bumped by random hikers all day long or whatever? Because again, you've committed to this space. You have driven 1,500 plus miles, and now you're sort of in this area, it sure would be nice to know. So here are some apps that I would encourage you to check out that might be able to help you understand where non-hunting human pressure is and where it's coming from. One of the platforms is called FatMap, and I had looked at FatMap for the purposes of comparing it to like an Onyx, and it's not designed that for that. It's not that way. It has great visuals. It's got great 3D visuals, but it's more for recreational uh, hikers, recreation, I guess. And so you can sort that map based on mountain bike trails, hiking trails. I think skiing is involved in there, maybe cross country skiing, those sorts of things. But ultimately, it allows you to sort of sift through and find the most popular recreational trails in a particular area. So let's say, yeah, I mean, you go into a particular state and you pull up Fat Map, and you just want to see what is popular in that area and how does it overlap or impinge on the area that I'm trying to hunt. Last year, I went to an area that it was full of people, but there was a lot of people that were just camping there recreationally as well. And it's nice to sort of know that going in. The MTB project, it's ultimately a mountain biking app that does some rating and reviews of mountain bike trails. And so you can use that as a way to get a sense of what does the human traffic look like in this area. This I happen to overlap with the most popular mountain bike trail in this region. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe you can use that trail to your advantage and get deeper in. But ultimately, there are these tools out there. It's important to try to use all the tools that you can. If you haven't tried All Trails as an app, All Trails is something I use a lot when I'm on vacation. We go out west, we go to national parks, and it's a rating and review of trail systems. And there's lots of pictures. And that's the one thing that I haven't mentioned is that on Google Earth, you'll see lots of pictures. On FatMap and MTB Project and on All Trails, you'll see pictures that other people have taken of the terrain. So you can get a sense of what it is that you're getting into. I remember back in 2016 when I was going out west, and even in 2018, I didn't know exactly what the terrain looked like. I mean, I got some sort of sense, but now with the fact that people are taking pictures of everything, you now have access to that. So the Dirt is another website or app that can be helpful, and it's a little different in the sense that if you're looking for campsites, the Dirt has a lot of those cataloged and reviews of campsites that are available for you in a particular region, and that might be helpful because you might want to start thinking about like, okay, do I want to camp at a place where there's showers, electricity? How, what is it that however, how do you want your hunt to go? If that's important to you, or if you want that as a backup, like, okay, if I get inclement weather, I'm gonna go ahead and reserve a campsite so that I can pull back to a spot that has electricity, those sorts of things. So the Dirt could be a website and an app that could be helpful. Now, ski resort cameras, especially if you're going in late season, especially if you're going a time when there's going to be snow on the ground. Ski resort cameras can also give you an idea of what the terrain looks like in real time, not only from the standpoint of the hills and the peaks and the valleys, but just from the standpoint of what's the weather doing. Obviously, there's highway cams, and actually we're going to get to that in a second, but ski resort cams can actually get you access into uh, areas and get a sense of, okay, it's pretty clear there's a lot of snow on the ground. That might not be an area that I want to drive, or maybe it is, but that's a tool that I would encourage you to check out and use. Now, on the Hunt Detail YouTube channel, I've reviewed, I think, 16 different weather map apps. You can find that on the Hunt Detail YouTube. I encourage you to go to that YouTube channel, subscribe. That's what I focus on primarily on that channel is really comparing, looking at a product category and comparing everything that's in that category. And the top weather app, now there's a couple of them, but I'm going to share with you the number one was called Windy. And there's another one that sort of has a similar name, but this one's called Windy. It has, I think, to me it's my favorite weather app, especially when I'm traveling, doing travel hunting, because it has a thunder and lightning layer. It has precipitation layers. It has all the different layers that you would expect, but it also has webcams. And you can literally just click on a webcam from any random highway across the West, across the country for that matter. And you can again get a sense of the traffic, you can get a sense of the weather, get a sense of the terrain. And it's really, I think, an incredible app in that regard. I mean, you can see wind. That's always nice to know what the wind direction is, and there's a lot of detail within that app. And you can pay for a subscription and get access to more data. But I really like the Windy app for that reason because of the webcam links. And I believe you can get that for free. You don't even have to pay to get that. And it's such a nice feature to be able to click in, and on my phone I have access to a lot of information about an area that's 1,500 miles away. So I've just verbally vomited a bunch of different apps and websites, but I want to encourage you to write those down, check those out, incorporate that into your e-scouting and into your hunt planning, because I think it'll help you have more acuity as you get closer to September, where you're like, okay, I have not only a high level view of what's going on at the state level, but also a very microscopic view as what's going on within the area that I'm hunting from a weather standpoint, from a people pressure standpoint, from that sort of thing. So I hope you find this helpful. We're going to continue down this road in an upcoming podcast. Please, please, please provide a 5-star review of this podcast. Please go to the Hunt Detail YouTube channel, and also go to the Hunt Detail Instagram and follow all of it. Appreciate your help and support. Best of luck this week. And until next week, thanks so much.